Okay.
I am Rashonda Williams. I am the community liaison and the president of Collective Impact. And our mission is to provide resources and educational workshops to help leaders of color overcome internal barriers preventing them from having a positive impact on the communities they serve. So, one barrier for nonprofit leaders of color is lack of funding, right? Which leads to self funding. Um, and I understand. Anyone can relate to that. Lack of funding, which means that the leaders, the founders usually fund their own nonprofit organization. So that is what we hope to change. One of the things we hope to change with Collective Impact. And that is why we brought on our panel of funding professionals to answer questions, give tips on how to prepare um, your organization for funding, and answer any questions that you may have. So let's get started with our network CPA. Sir, can you introduce yourself and tell everyone the best practices to prepare for funding?
Okay, great. I'm Andrew Melton, the president of Nonprofit Consultants based out of Detroit, Michigan. And I am going to talk about preparing for a funding request, or more specifically, is your organization in a position to receive funding for programs? That's the core question. And I'm going to present this by way of a business development plan. If you don't have a business development plan in place, you are not ready to seek government program funding. Simple as that. This is the first step toward establishing your strategy for receiving funding. Putting it all together, the business development plan. It's a process at a glance. We're going to review some samples. Okay. Basic definition of a business development plan is your roadmap to how your short-term and long-term goals will be financially supported. It's really simple as that. The multiple plans of an organization are the business development plan, the strategic plan, and the technical plan, or more or less the business plan, so to speak. Steps in the process: assess organizational needs, identify target constituencies, develop strategies for each constituency, evaluate strategic alternatives, drafts and approve the plan, implement, review, evaluate, update. You're supposed to continue to use this plan on an ongoing basis. It's got to be a working document. Steps in the process: you always want to have a group of individuals working on a plan and have it clearly laid out who's going to do what. That's key, with the timeline, status report, status meetings, and preferably a collaboration software like Google Docs where people can work on the document. Assess organizational needs. Step number one: what do you want to do? Where's your organization going? What will it cost to get there? Do you have the capacity to raise the funding needed? Assessment of your organization's readiness to conduct business development work. Okay. Organization's readiness for fundraising. Your board's role in fundraising. Board members are supposed to participate. Board members have two primary functions: to donate money or to make donations of money happen. And of course, the third one obviously is provide a skill set that can assist you to running the day-to-day operations of your organization. What are your staff roles? There are staff that are supposed to participate in fundraising as well. Systems and procedures, cultivation and stewardship. Is there an integrated business development plan in place? If you have a plan that was previously developed and it's not being used, you want to get that plan, you want to update it, integrate this into your new plan and work toward implementation. Now, this is your checklist. This will tell you where your deficiencies are as it relates to the inter-assessment audit of your organization. And it's just got basic questions. You answer yes, no, or you're unsure. Is there a justifiable reason recognized by the community at large to raise public and private contribution. A mission statement that is reviewed regularly by the board. Management systems which fulfill accountability and reporting requirements to government donors and clients. You've got to have an accounting system that has the ability to generate the interim reporting requirements that your funders are going to require. A financial contribution to your organization by senior staff. Is that happening? Our board members are required to make a minimum contribution every year. They call that a get-give policy. Typically, board members will commit to a certain amount, either donating it themselves or making it happen. So it's one of the two. It's a critical thing, and it should be in place at all nonprofit organizations. So that checklist is critical. You got 34 items. Go down, check them off. The ones you aren't doing, you're going to work toward doing them over time. You don't have to have these things in place till you do your business development plan, but these will tell you where you are and the deficiencies that you can work toward on an ongoing basis. Assess organizational needs, identify target constituencies. One size does not fit all. Different individuals in the organization fulfill different needs, missions, and interests. I understand that. Strategies for each constituency. Now, these are your main revenue streams. Your revenue stream should be clearly laid out, and these will appear on your financial statements. Corporate memberships. If you are a membership organization, you would have this. This particular business development plan was prepared for a membership organization that had programs, events and sponsorships. You're going to have events. You're going to have fundraising events. So you're going to have that line item. Education, training, and consulting services. You are going to provide programs. And your program, this if you're a workforce organization, you're going to have education and training, as well as fee for service. If you also are going to be providing services to your nonprofit, you would have this. So this particular nonprofit had corporate memberships. They had an annual gala and a various sponsorship program. And then their third major was education, training, consulting services. Social media, online fundraising, an absolute must. You're going to have these three line items, that's three, and then you're going to have this fourth one, which is social media, online fundraising, that's four. Depending on what your organization does, there may be others, but you've got to have a robust online media program. Major gifts, these are endowments and bequests that people leave you money in their will. Usually the larger nonprofits have an active role in pursuing these kind of things. Board members make a significant contribution to this effort through their connections, et cetera, et cetera. Strategic alliances. Now, in a new up and coming nonprofit, these are critical. This is how you get your experience to perform some of the program services that you are seeking funding for. Experience is a big part of the evaluation process when they are determining who gets the money. So to align yourself with an existing nonprofit and provide subcontracting services, that gives you the experience requirement over time so that you can ultimately bid on it yourself. And then once you get up and running, you'll do the same thing with other nonprofits. So the subcontracting, joint ventures, networking with other nonprofits, state and minority business development agencies, all these things, you want to be doing all of them simultaneously. Internship volunteer program. This is critical. The biggest advantage of internship and volunteer program is it's obviously the free labor. If you have I've had worked with nonprofits that had civic corps. Literally, civic corps reimbursed them for every dollar they spent on these individual employees, and you give these employees, on the job experience that goes on their resume. So it's a win-win for both you, your organization, and the individuals participating. Full steam ahead. Now, the grant tracking report. This is probably the most important document in your business development / finance engagement interaction. Business development and the finance department should work together every single month and reconcile to these documents. I use these in my nonprofits to determine the status of all the grants, the interim reporting requirements, and make certain we're in compliance with that. And we match these to the work in process, the billings, to get billings for reimbursement, and on and on. Very critical document. This is where you lay out all of your additional. This one has the grant writing. These have, let's see, this one is, these are foundations. This one has additional foundations, and the corporations are at the bottom here. And then this has corporate giving or other organizations. So you'll have it in various sections, but you got to have a grant tracking document. Very essential. Raising funds is not enough. Measure results. This is what I mean by ongoing, using the document on an ongoing basis. Are your results? Are you getting the results that you intended? Are you winning bids? That's the bottom line. Fundraising return on investment. This you won't have initially. This is typically geared to a larger nonprofit. It's got a lot of things coming in from donors, major gifts, and those kind of things. But you can start this off and just see what it shakes out to be in terms of return on investment and the calculation and the variances, just to get an idea of what you're doing with the programs that you do have. Putting it all together, and that's the end of that. Now, once you get a business development plan and you're implementing it and you're getting deals, or the next step is to actually become good at doing proposals. And I'm going to show you a proposal that I did for an organization. This was never submitted, so this is no violation of confidentiality. They never submitted it. The board decided they didn't have the capacity, and they thought I was taking them too fast. And it just kind of overwhelmed them. But this is what your grant proposal should look like. Cover page, table of contents. You're going to list out all your various company information, all your corporate documents, just overview of the company, the nonprofit, just basic information of the primary contact people, and then organizational chart and so on. And then these are the programs that you are seeking funding for. We were seeking these 4 critical areas. It was from the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation. This is based, this is the guy who used to own the Buffalo Bills. There's $1 billion in his fund that he's given away, that he left to be given away over 20 years. So, they operate in Detroit and in upstate New York. So he's been funding things in Detroit for the last 7 or 8 years, like madness, just unbelievable things he's funded. So, we were going to apply for these 4 critical areas, and they have focus areas. So you want to make sure the things that you are proposing fit into the focus areas of the organization. Now I'm going to go right over to this one had a lot of attachments, but I want to take you to, this is attachment 1. We were presenting where we were going to use a location. I had a building in Detroit on Washington Boulevard, Michigan Avenue, and this was the building. You have to propose locations, and this was the building I sold it, but the purchaser was going to lease us out a portion of the building they used for our program. And they went in and did all this renovation. It's beautiful. It's an art karate school. And that's what it looked like that we were including in our proposal. You've got to present to them where you're gonna perform the service. It's got to be adequate. This was the organizational chart. We were going to have a lot of different programs. This was going to be a very expensive funding effort. And I'll tell you how much it came out to in a minute. But we were going to provide various mentorship programs, music healing, workforce, nonprofit mentorship, as well as financial literacy. So we were going to provide a major program effort there. But I want to show you real quick what it came out to be, so you'll just get an idea of, let's see. Oh, this is the qualitative aspects of the program. You got to include all the qualitative aspects. You got to break it down and say what you're going to do, how you're going to go about it. But I want to show you the budget real quick. Where is it? Okay, this is more qualitative stuff. Nope, that's the tax exemption. Oh, I'm all over the place here. Let's see. Bios and resumes. Okay, I'm all over. All right, I done picked everything but the budget. We'll get it in a minute. Oh, shoot. Okay. Oh, man. Okay. Well, we may not be able to get to it. I may have to just come back to that. But it came out to be $1.5 million. So it was a pretty significant budget. That's it in a nutshell. Your business development plan and a comprehensive financing proposal for a huge program with a lot of different program elements. So that's where you want to get to, and it takes a while to get there, and understand that that was a pro forma, meaning that we were proposing the funding as a startup of all those programs, and the way we were going to convince them is by the expertise of the individuals that we put on that proposal. Everybody has significant experience in the applicable areas that they were going to provide services. That's key. We didn't have a full staff of people already in place like a lot of nonprofits, but that's the way to really kick off a nonprofit with $1.5 million budget your very first year. And we were going to do presentations. These individuals going to do the whole dog and pony show. And I believe we had a very good chance of getting that. But I think I overwhelmed that board, and they just thought I was moving them too fast, and they got spooked. So they voted against it. And the president, the young lady who had taken over as the new executive director, and also the new chair, she was the chair of the board. She was a millennial, and she wanted this so bad. So she recruited me, and we recruited a bunch of people, and those old people on the board really just intervened and shut her down. And she was so upset, she ultimately ended up quitting.
Oh no.
And a couple other people left. And this is one of the things you got to be careful of, the politics of nonprofit organizations and board members.
Absolutely.
Their personal philosophies will extend over into their decision-making process. And I'm gonna tell you, some of those board members decided that, and I'm gonna say this because I'm gonna just say it like I determined, like based on my assessment. He was a lot of wealthy white people on that board, and they decided they did not want to do that Detroit stuff.
Right. Wow.
That poor people stuff.
Wow. But you know what? That is one thing we aim to change through collective impact. It's very interesting, as you all may know. The board of directors makes all the decisions, and over 90% of those board members are Caucasian males. So sorry you put in all that work for that. You made some really great points, and I see there's notes being taken. Don't worry. This replay will be available in the Collective Impact app, and that is available for download in the Google Play and the Apple App Store. So thank you for that. That's a really great point. You said to really tell the story with your grant proposal, even though it was a new organization. I think that people kind of get overwhelmed when they really don't have data to prove what they've already done to show the impact. That's a really great point to just really tell the story with the data. And
well, this was the advantage. This is why I knew we were going to get it. They were not a new organization. They were a new organization branching. They were expanding into community service. They were an established orchestra and based in downtown Detroit, but all of their members was, orchestra type people, they, so, here I come, and we convinced them that they have an obligation to do the community service. They, Detroit is patronizing their arts and coming to their concerts and spending money and, their sponsors. And so that was the position we were taking. And a lot of them bought into it, especially the young ones, that they wanted to do community service. And they said they did, right? We weren't twisted in that, and that's hence, but in the final analysis, they decided they didn't. And it's a big deal. Doing community services when that it was not part of your core mission is a big deal. But they had such a huge brand and good connections with wealthy people. We would have got that money. We would have got that money from Rousey Wilson, and we would have had the impact on all those people that we're going to serve. We're going to serve 500 young people. 500 was in that budget to be served. And those mentorship programs, financial literacy across the board. And it would have been unbelievable.
And that was just for the Detroit area?
It was for, yes. It was, yes. I insisted that it be Detroit based. And no, not Wayne County. Someone wanted to say Wayne County. I was like, no, because I know what that means. I'm going to be trying to serve people out in Livonia and all that. I was like, no, Detroit. I insisted on that.
Awesome.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. When they try to take you countywide, you know what that means. That means that they want to,
That's awesome. So you just see how fired up Andrew gets about it. I just love it. I just love your passion for writing proposals and numbers, because that is not my ministry. Listen, so we're going to hold questions to the end. And then if you ever need assistance in that area, Mr. Melton is definitely available for hire. You can schedule a consultation again through the Collective Impact app. So next up, we have the nonprofit diva here, who is going to talk about the best practices on effectively stewarding the funding that you get. So Mr. Melton told us how to set your organization up for success with that business development plan, get you a strong board. And now she's going to, when you get that money, she's going to tell you how to manage those funds. And she has experience and receipts. Listen, she has managed $1 million budgets. So
let me add one more quick thing. Now, I realize this is recorded and it's going to be available, but this is available for your use and your nonprofits. Don't distribute these videos, because we're talking about organizations, especially me. I don't want to bad my people and have it floating around out there. So keep it for your own use.
Right. We just this is a safe space, okay? This is a safe space, right? We're not gonna go tell Mr. Big Money in the stadium what Mr. Milton said, So this is a safe space. So
you don't want to offend certain groups of people that are critical to our funding efforts. So we always be mindful of that. You can't go beating up on them and then asking them for money.
Right. Funding. We will definitely have a course about developing relationships with funders in our Impact Academy through the Collective Impact app as well. So without further ado, the nonprofit diva, Introduce yourself, ma'am, and tell us the deets.
Hello, everyone. My name is Latisha Chastang. I serve as the Chief Visionary Officer of Bright Minds Consulting, and I also still have a 9-to-5 job. I serve as the Director of Emergency Services with Impact Community Action here in Columbus, Ohio, serving Columbus and Franklin County. And with everything that's been going on with the pandemic, well, let me back up before I go into the pandemic, but I also have served as their research and planning director, where I have managed and oversee the agency's grants and the compliance that come with the grants. And so the role that I'm in now with Impact, and with all the dollars that has come down with the CARES Act and just really helping families get back on their feet. I went from a $2 million grant to a $20 million grant and those funds have to be spent in 6 months in 2020. And I currently am managing a $35 million grant and counting. And so a lot of the focus areas is in emergency services and really helping families get back on their feet. With my consulting work, I have assisted organizations so far with about $6 to $7 million thus far. In various programs such as youth mentoring, STEM focused program, life skill programming. Those are the primary ones that I've helped a lot of my clients secure funding on. So with that being said, because I have a really good eagle eye for compliance, because it's really important once you receive these resources that you are a good steward of those resources. When you have large resources like that, there's a lot of eyes on you. A lot of eyes on you, not just as far as spending the resources, but also with the compliance piece. So with that being said, there's a couple of things that Brother Andrew talked about that will kind of layer what I'll be discussing, because they go hand in hand. So the proposal is pretty much, so the proposal that Brother Andrew talked about, the grant agreement is just to make sure that you are doing what you said you were going to do. And so it's really important that, you know, you have your infrastructure in place, because oftentimes the grant agreement that is put together and written is based upon what you wrote, what you said you were going to do. So as it relates to managing budgets, I would say that would be the number one thing. Once you get that award, that one-page award saying, congratulations, you were awarded X amount of dollars. Yes, it's exciting, but read the grant, top to bottom, not just you, but you also want whoever your team is going to be, your program coordinator, your finance people, everyone that's involved with keeping this grant together. Everybody needs to read that grant. In that grant agreement, it will have information about reports. It will have information about which Andrew mentioned about results. It will give you everything that you need to have, and then also the budget. So even though oftentimes the proposal, well, not oftentimes, proposals will have the budget in it, but sometimes the funder will modify that budget. So you want to make sure that when you're reading that grant agreement, you're reading those items, what you can spend the funds on, what you can't spend the funds on. Because again, sometimes they will be modified in that grant agreement. Before you sign anything, read that grant agreement. And if you have any questions, that gives you an opportunity to ask the funder any clarifying questions that you may have. So that's the biggest piece for me. The other part that Andrew had mentioned, as it relates to measuring results, I just wanted to add just a little piece to measuring those results. When you are measuring results, what that really means, just to kind of break that down, is break that down a little bit to what tools are you going to use to measure the results. So that could be pre and post assessments, that could be case management records, that can be an assessment that assess a person's condition when they started your program, after they started your program. You also want to have a tool that you're going to use to collect all this information. So that could be a database of some sort, an Excel spreadsheet of some sort, but you want something to be able to collect all that data and all that information. You also want to identify who's going to be responsible for collecting that information as well. So that's your program staff, your volunteers, whomever that is, you want to identify who's going to be collecting that data. And then last but not least, how often you're going to be getting that information collected. So like if you're doing a pre and post test, during the class, after the class, if it's case management or case records, it's going to be collected monthly. So it's important to make sure when you're measuring, you keep that in mind and you're thinking through that because you're going to need those for grant reports. When your funders are asking questions, you want to have that information readily available. So I just wanted to add that piece to what Andrew had talked about for the results measurements. Now, so a couple of things as relates to managing multi-million-dollar budgets, because I can tell you it's pretty overwhelming. I'm not going to lie and say that. I had to do a lot of pivoting this year and making adjustments. But what I will tell you is it's really important that when you have a large grant like that, if you are not familiar with accounting or anything like that, I strongly recommend to make sure that you have someone that has experience in accounting or nonprofit financing, someone like Andrew Melton, C.P.A., to really be able to make sure that, they're looking at it from a compliance standpoint and then making sure that they provide you with the necessary guidance to be able to manage those dollars correctly. Because oftentimes, I'll get into a meeting and I'll say, okay, I need, I have, this demand and I need 5 new staff. And sometimes my finance team will say like, no. And I'm like, why? Well, according to the grant, we don't have the dollars for it. So then I'm back to the drawing board to try to figure that out and make that happen or whatever the case may be. But they are your voice of reason, again, to make sure that we are adhering to the grant guidelines, adhering to what the funder has said, and then making sure, again, that we're good stewards over the resources that's entrusted. Another thing I would say about managing grants or just even budgets, there's 2 types of categories when it comes to budgets. As far as expenses is concerned, you have the administrative budget, which are people and items that don't necessarily work directly with the program, but it is necessary to keep the organization and the program going. Administrative costs can include human resources, your executive director,
Finance.
Yeah, finance. So those are administrative costs, but you need those costs.
HR,
right. HR personnel.
Business development.
then you have operating costs. So operating costs, of course, is the cost associated with running the program directly. So these are the people that are processing applications, that's working with the customers, that's doing the case management. Those are your frontline staff and program managers and directors and all the expenses that come with running that program. I will say when putting together a budget, and Andrew, chime in on this piece too, but typically admin budgets should stay up between 10 to 13%. You don't want to kind of keep that's the sweet spot for admin cost when it comes to certain grants, to keep it under.
Yeah. Well, historically, the initial evaluation of a program was the standard was to look at the percentage of the total budget allocated to a general administration versus the percentage allocated to programs. And historically, you were considered a good nonprofit if you had a high percentage related attributable to programs. Okay, that means most of the dollars going to direct impact of the constituents. However, in recent years, there's been a big push for nonprofits to understand and for donors to understand that nonprofits need to be able to recruit high-powered executives to make the organizations more successful and to have more of an impact. To do that, they had to pay higher salaries. So we want you to stop putting so much emphasis on the split and look at what the impact more so than split. So now it's acceptable to get up to 30% in G&A. In the old days, it was more, you know, if you got over 12%, you was a slime ball. You was just trying to suck out money. But now, you know, now I think if you got superstars, you can get up to 30%. And as long as you're successful and you're profitable and you're making an impact, you know, it's all good. But don't be paying out big stars and you almost going out of business and you on the front page of the newspaper. So
right. And
so,
I will add to that as relates to, you know, that's why it's really important to make sure that you are showing a return on investment as relates to the program side. So when those questions come up, you're able to be transparent with the public in which you're serving, your donors, and being able to say, for every dollar contributed to this organization, it yielded X amount of dollars to the community. Being able to tell that story, and also be able to have your customers tell the story too, how the program has impacted them. Those are your best ambassadors and advocates to getting the additional support that you're in need of. So I would say that those are some important components. Also, I would also say that meeting with your finance team regularly. I meet with my finance team every single week because there's so many things that changes. So, you know, it's a good practice to meet with your finance team monthly, but when you have larger dollars and they move fast, you want to stay in the know every single week so that if there needs to be a change, that needs to be done right away, you're able to be proactive in that change or that adjustment and work collaboratively with your finance team on making that happen. So you don't want to wait until the last minute to make those changes. And so, you know, monthly is a good barometer, but you know, when you have dollars that may need to move quicker than that, meeting with a finance team weekly is I would recommend to do, because like I said, I think me and the finance team, we spend a lot of time together. So also when it comes to managing multi-million-dollar budgets, again, just making sure that you're. Oh,
this is what you're talking about. Yeah, I finally found it. Yeah, this is exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely. So let me see here. I'm looking here. Andrew, where is your do you have all of your when you put this budget together, do you break it down? Is it just the total, or do you break it down by admin or?
Yeah, here's your general admin. This is the staffing pattern. So these got all your bodies included in there. Is some you know, keep in mind these professionals were gonna all work directly on the project. So we didn't really have any G&A. Everybody was going to be direct program funded.
Okay. Yep.
So but this was the whole thing. And we broke down cost per unit, student serves 500 for your outcomes. And we broke down the salary between. So here it is, the equipment, client service expenses, other operating. So out of this 1.5 million, you know, only 95,000 was startup. So that's essentially your G&A. And the bulk of it, the equipment, direct, you know, all of this was, but this was a very unusual thing because we didn't already have a system in place for G&A. So it was going to be almost 100% program direct to the program. So this was going to be just wonderful in terms of the split and the impact.
Thanks, Andrew, for showing that. Because again, this is really important. And then being able to, you know, share this with, again, the potential funders and your board. Now, I will say the caveat as relates to board approval of grants. It is a good rule of thumb. It is good practice to how can I put it? It's a good practice to include your board when it comes to funding opportunities that you're looking for and seeking for board approval. You want to just double check your grant, the grant narrative or the proposal to verify if you need it or not. There are many grants that do require board approval, and there are some that do not. But again, as a best practice, it's good to have your board approve those, so they have an idea on what opportunities that the organization is going for, because they may be able to help open that door. But I just wanted to add that caveat as well. But yeah, I know a lot of the grants that I work with, they do require board approval prior to submitting that application. So another piece I would say with managing again is, again, making sure a lot of the things that Andrew had mentioned, you would think like, well, why do they need a resume? And why do they need this? Because most of the time, I will tell you with grant writing, those are the pieces that are missed. Writing the narrative stuff is the easy part. Oftentimes where a lot of organizations get themselves tripped up to is the attachments. So the resumes and all those other things. So,
you gotta have everything.
Yeah, keep that in mind. This is the proposal that Andrew submitted was a very great, big, robust proposal. So that was a really good example. But those are some of my recommendations as relates to managing a grant. I will end it by saying, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So making sure your plan is in place. Making sure your plan is in place.
I'm gonna have to write that
down. Compliant, and so whenever funder, because a funder can spot, can come to the, can say, hey, I want to do an audit. Okay, what files do you need? Here you go. So if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
I can't believe I never heard that one. I done heard them all. That's good.
Yeah, that so many gems, Latisha. Thank you. So one point that you brought up was the data. Like they say that content is king, data is king, especially when dealing with funders. So you see a lot of organizations after they have an event or a program, they're like pushing those surveys instantly, right? Video testimonials are really great for that as well. Say, oh, you'll get this free t-shirt if you tell us how this changed your life or whatever, so all to sweeten the deal. And you also talked about the board members needing those attachments. So a really great practice is when you're onboarding your board members, that's part of the whole thing. Give me your resume. So when I'm going for this funding, we don't have to wait for so-and-so to send a resume. We already have all of this stuff in a shared drive, everybody's in information. So it doesn't hold anything up, because like you said, Latisha, that does hold up a lot of people waiting on those attachments as well. And then read that grant. I love that. Read that grant, because it might say, hey, we're gonna do audits every 17 hours, you don't know, just read that grant and have one person to be in charge of updating that data constantly. You don't want that to be a Google share drive, everybody and their mama typing in there. That could just get out of hand real quick. So
absolutely,
definitely know what those guidelines are. And then unfortunately, as a nonprofit leader of color, there are often more restrictions on the funding that is given to them. So just be prepared for that, they're gonna really want to see what you're doing with it and you got your ducks in a row. So just be prepared with that as well. So do we have any questions on that, or anything that Latisha or Andrew talked about? Any questions?
I'll just make a comment before before we get any questions. I'll tell you, Andrew, it saddens my soul that they didn't go for that in Detroit. I'm
Yeah.
talking to someone who played for the Youth Columbus Symphony Orchestra here in Columbus. I played a string bass and I still do. And
Okay.
so, there's, it's just, I mean, it could have just given even the young people of color exposed to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
orchestra. And,
Yep.
if it wasn't for opportunities and people opening doors for me in
Yeah.
Columbus, and
Yeah.
Kappa and all those things in Columbus, I feel like my life has been enriched as a young person by being exposed and being able to play. You know what I'm saying? And so that just saddens my heart. That saddens my heart.
Yeah. And we were gonna implement the first music healing program in downtown Detroit at the hospitals. Music healing. I didn't even know that was a thing till this came along. Yeah, I had no idea that was a thing. It's a big thing. Yeah.
I just wanted to add that comment. When you said they didn't fund it, I just
That was I'm still shopping that package, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I
in
can
Columbus
tell.
now.
You put your
I'm
heart
just
and soul in that, and
I'm
that's
still shopping it. Every opportunity I get to talk to some board members that want to expand into new stuff, I pull that proposal out and say, look here, look what I got here. Somebody gonna do it one of these days.
Yeah, hey, just change up the names. You got it all.
That's all. That's
all
it.
nice
It's
and
already
pretty.
done.
That's it. That's it. Whoever ready for it, you hear that? He got the grant already prepared for you. So that's awesome. So this has been incredible, and you guys gave so much great information. So for more content like this, feel free to download our app in the Google Play and the Apple Store. Coming April of 2021, in a few weeks, we will have Impact Academy. It will be a full course in constant content around CEO development, team building. Team building is really great. Mr. Melton, you had said about the whole board and their personalities. So we're going to have content and consultants come in talking about conflict resolution and how to assess the people that are on your team, right? So we all have different personalities. We're going to have an assessment so that you can understand yourself and then better understand those who work with you. Stuff about nonprofit operations like the funding and the IRS filing, all that great stuff. And that will be available to our app premium subscribers. And we have it open up now for those here. I'm going to drop the link in here to RSVP in the chat for everyone to sign up and save a seat for that. And I'm going
to send you over a list of my favorite topical areas. And you can feel free to put me in to speak on these topics primarily.
Absolutely. And we are a network of consultants from different industries united together to provide professional services to nonprofit leaders of color and their organization to help them overcome barriers, preventing them from having maximum impact on their community. So this is one way that we do that. We will have a different topic every month. We're thinking volunteer relations for April, because April 18th through the 24th is Volunteer Appreciation Week. So you get the money to get to advance your mission and impact your community. So then you got to get people inspired to be a part of that vision. And it's really great to know how to manage and to utilize the skills of your volunteers as well. I don't know if you guys watch Blackish, but it was a really funny episode on there where the mom, she's a doctor, and they went to go volunteer and they had her peeling potatoes, and she's like, why you got me peeling potatoes? So it's really funny. So you want to utilize the skills of those around as well. Again, Impact Academy, I'll drop the link for that. And Andrew and Latisha are available for consultations. Latisha is more of the operations, the strategic planning, what she talked about, managing the budget, all of the operational things. And of course, Mr. Melton is all things CPA, filing and funding and budgets. Oh my, all of that. I am the one of the marketing.
And organization-wide restructuring, HR, compliance, business development, stay out of trouble.
Yeah, he's real big on that, especially as a nonprofit leader of color, you always want to have excellence, right, Latisha? So we talk
That's
about
right.
Black excellence all the time. So I am a marketing consultant. I do all things branding, be that logos, marketing, content, social media. I am one of the marketing. My specific area of expertise is branding. So making sure you have a consistent visual flow throughout all your social media platforms, you know what your tone is, and of course, you know who you're talking to. So we are just 3 of 12 so far in different industries here to provide for hire, to provide services for nonprofit leaders of color. Do we have any questions? I don't see no questions. So, well, I got a question then. Since a lot of our nonprofit leaders of color end up self-funding their organizations because of lack of funding, can you guys talk on some tips or on getting operational funding and technical assistant funding, which is hiring a team of individuals like ourselves to come in to the organizations? Can you start us out with that, Andrew?
Yeah, the SBA has gives out grants to professional organizations to provide management and technical assistance services to small businesses, and in some instances, it includes nonprofits. 7J program, SBA 7J, go to the website, look it up. They'll have the list of consulting firms that have received the money, and they would sign up the recipients of the free services. I had 7J many years ago. I was an 8A firm, and I've been funded to provide services to small business from various government agencies through the years back in the old days. There was a lot of money to provide management and technical assistance to small businesses, profit entities, not so much nonprofits, but now there's more for nonprofits.
I would say I would say research specifically capacity building opportunities for nonprofits.
Yeah.
That's where you'll find those types of funding opportunities to bring on consultants to do things like, for instance, I would say strategic plans. Your strategic and business plan that Andrew had talked about, it should be your first priority. I think people get the anxiety once they get their 501c3 now to go after these grants. I say stop, don't do it.
Yeah.
If you don't have all these other plans, if you don't have your plan in place, if you don't have your board in place and the infrastructure that will take place, you will find yourself in hot water, and Andrew's going to have to come and save you. So being able to, treat your nonprofit just like you would treat a startup business. You're not going to start making money in the first 6 months. You have to give yourself the opportunity to grow, to build your infrastructure, all those plans in place that you would do for a for-profit. You want that same mindset when starting your nonprofit. So I really talk to people a lot about, yes, we want you to save the world, but we want to also make sure that you're not in hot water either with saving the world. And so because, networking, building those relationships, all those things are key and important with getting the resources that you need to start your organization. It'll also save you money on self-funding yourself as well. So again, to the original question and to provide that answer is research capacity building grants. And there's a lot of opportunities there for nonprofit organizations.
Yeah. Forget the management and technical assistance grants. Get the capacity building grants. Listen, I worked with some nonprofits. I walk in there and I'm talking to them. They had these raggedy computers. They didn't have good office equipment, and they had a capacity building grant. But guess they didn't know what that definition meant. It means anything to get you ready to do business.
You can have me with Andrew any day. I promise you, Rashonda, we can do this all the time.
I'm telling you, forget the management and technical assistance grants. Get you some capacity building grants.
Yeah.
That covers everything. It's complete startup. I mean, business development consultants, everything. Capacity building is everything.
Keyword capacity building.
And there's a lot of that out there. Yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot of that out there. Yeah, forget the management technical assistance, go over to capacity building.
So the capacity building also covers staff salaries as well?
Well, it covers, you gotta be careful with that. But you don't want it to cover staff salaries. You want your program funding to cover that. You want to get up and running and put yourself in a position to do business. Right. That's the capacity building, or improve your position to do business. If you're already existing, you get capacity building, and you can implement. You could set up the renovations in a new office. That increases your capacity. Keep in mind, whatever increases your capacity to do more programming, that's capacity building. If it means adding a different location, that's capacity building. And all of the renovations associated thereof, that's capacity building. I would be careful with salaries and wages, because that can go, that can be a little flaky, but everything else,
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just add to that because I will oftentimes get questions, because you'll have a nonprofit organization, they don't have anybody in-house to do their strategic plan. You don't have anybody in-house to do those things.
Yeah.
And their budgets don't oftentimes permit those types of costs. So by getting these types of opportunities, it will give them the resources to be able to bring in a subject matter expert to put together a marketing plan, or put together a business development plan, or put together their strategic plan, and be able to then implement the work that they need to do for the program. So it helps those organizations be able to get the resources needed for subject matter experts that usually doesn't have costs that don't permit consultants.
And there's always collective impact, right? We done already did the work for you. Everybody vetted. You gotta love God, you gotta love business, you gotta love people. So, and everybody collectively, we've got over a century of experience among our consultants. So go ahead, sir, ask your question, introduce yourself and your organization. Go ahead, ask your question.
Thank you for that. And greetings, everybody. My name is Anthony Shoecraft. First, I want to give, thanks to the brother and sister for the panel. On a Saturday, I don't know what time zone y'all are on, but I'm on Pacific time. So I'm at least 3 hours behind somebody, or a minimum 2 hours behind other folks. But greetings from Seattle. Thank you to the Queen who was hosting. I'm sorry, can you remind me of your name again, sis?
Rashonda.
All right, Rashonda
Williams.
Williams, okay. All right, thank you for that. I think I missed it in the beginning. But I'm the Senior Director of Strategy and Business Development for Kingmakers of Oakland. Well, I'm based in Seattle. I'm with Kingmakers of Oakland, national organization. What we do in a nutshell, we work with school districts across the country to bring about the healing, but really enable the potential of Black boys. We fundamentally believe in a greatness and genius of Black boys, and that they don't need to be changed. They are working within toxic learning educational environments. So we really focus our work with districts to really change the culture, the conditions, the structures, and the systems that Black boys are being taught within to enable their potential, if that makes sense. We find our origin in the Oakland Unified School District when back in 2010, OUSD was the first district in the history of this country to create a department specifically for African-American male achievement. So while I was up here in Seattle, I was working in the mayor's office and funded a expansion or replication of what they were doing down in the Bay up here in Seattle. And I have since, shall I say, unmoored myself from the golden shackles of the institution and then signed on to Kingmakers of Oakland to be really doing this work on a national level. So glad to see Detroit represented, Columbus, I got folks in both areas, so all that aside, though, sorry for that long introduction, but just to give thanks and honor to you all. Okay. We are in startup mode. So we've been under the fiscal sponsorship under the National Equity Project for the last year. And, we're very blessed. I say this humbly, at a time when, despite the sort of time we are in as a country or a world for that much, we know that there's a reality with Black-led organizations. They're still not only being disinvested, but they're still sort of dying off, so to speak, right? So we don't take for granted that, as an organization that has aspirations to be a $10 million a year, enterprise, we're thankful to be halfway there. And, only 6 months into starting up. And while we're in startup mode, one of the, clearly one of the main, focuses of ours is infrastructure. And then humbly, learning from the lessons of, other national facing, organizations, Black-led organizations. Our number one sort of lessons learned has really been focusing on operations, where I think there can also, there can be a overemphasis on the vision and the strategy, not so much operations. And so given that, and we're focused on infrastructure, I'm curious, Sister Latisha, Brother Andrew, what systems do y'all recommend? So for example, grant management software, accounting software, what are some of those tools that come to mind for y'all that you all have used or what you might recommend?
Yeah, I've recently, I've worked with probably every software ERP system out there. The two that I'm hot for now are Sage Intacct and Abila MIP. They are, and Abila MIP has a cloud-based system. You gotta go, you need to be on the cloud because accessing remotely through your desktop, it can be clumsy. And I've recently tried to do it a couple of times with a client and it didn't work. And I was in a position I needed to get into the accounting system. So Sage MIP, Abila MIP and Sage Intacct, they're pretty sophisticated systems. They are not menu driven. If you are a small nonprofit and you need to get moving with the accounting system right away, get QuickBooks Online. Again, it's a cloud-based system and you can link it to your bank account so all your transactions flow up automatically. And all you got to do is click and code. That one is, so start with QuickBooks Online, do that one. It's online. People can access it from wherever they are just by logging into the website. And it's beautiful because you link it to the bank account. So transactions upload automatically. You just click an update button. It'll significantly reduce your need for outside accountants. You can get a bookkeeper, a $15 an hour QuickBooks Pro advisor to do your, to just log in and code and run off the financials. That's the way to go if you're a small organization trying to get started. Abila MIP and Sage Intacct are for large organizations and they're expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But QuickBooks Online is where you want to start off with.
Right. I'd like to add to that because as a startup as well, Microsoft Access has a really awesome database, right?
That's a database.
Everything is cloud-based, just in case you don't want everybody who's going to be involved in it in that program with those documents. You can always upload it, create a database for those who will be assisting with whatever area. and upload those documents to an Access database as well. We also have a ebook in our app. It's filled with resources that your nonprofit need. One of those resources is called TechSoup, and they have a really awesome program and pricing for nonprofit organizations. So I just want to
Second that.
You got to
TechSoup.
go to the TechSoup website, join that website. They got a massive amount of free stuff. It's just free. Just free. Just, yeah.
I just, I'm sorry, Latisha, I don't know if you're getting ready to say something. I didn't want to cut you off.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna echo what Andrew was saying as far as QuickBooks. I mean, that's a quick, a good one to use to get started. It will help you with your dashboards and all the things that you need to be able to report out to your board and be able to, make the necessary budgets. You can, interface that with payroll and all those other things, and be able to get all of that information. And then, what Rashonda said and Andrew, TechSoup is the way to go, hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to get TechSoup. I don't know where they get their stuff from, but they must get it truckloads of it because they got so much free stuff.
So just a point of clarification, Mr. Andrew, did you say Abila MIP or a bill MIP?
No, Abila, ABILA. That's the brand name. It's Abila MIP, and then Sage, SAGE, Intact, INTACCT. Yeah.
But so to be clear, those are accounting software.
Those are ERP systems, enterprise resource system. They're more than accounting systems. They're the main core accounting system, but they also integrate with all of the other organization-wide systems. HR programs, various other apps. You can, the cloud folders. The box system integrates with that. I think Dropbox does. There's a bunch of different apps that will help with your organization-wide dashboard. But like I said, those are expensive and not, they require extensive ongoing training. But ultimately, that's where you want to go. But QuickBooks Online with the grants administration module is a good start. And guess what? Make sure you use the grants administration module. I got so many clients that got it, and I go in and I click on it, and nothing's in it. I'm like, what? You got to use it.
Yeah, no, that's great. We've also been looking into on the CRM side for my lane, Salesforce, and aspects of like grants administration and tracking, reporting, yada yada yada, and even like Tableau.
Yeah.
You've been
Salesforce, the project management software. There's a couple of good ones out there. You need a good project management software. I've been, just using Google Docs and collaboration through Google Docs is one way to get it started right away, and have multiple people can work on the same project. But you need a project management software and get project management certified.
Yeah,
that's a quick way to understand how to structure your approach to doing deals and to running your program. Just take the basic certification in project management. Then after you get that one, take the next one. After you get that one, take the next one.
And that's available through what platform?
Oh, they're everywhere. Project management certifications are available everywhere.
Oh.
Get a community college even one. Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah, right now we're on all things Google Cloud, and again, respectfully and humbly, I'm like, this ain't gonna work for me too long. We got to elevate that. No, just no.
Yeah.
These are super. I'm writing all what you all just said down, and really appreciate it. Somewhat of an unrelated side, but just again, to be transparent, I just got an email about this organization. I'm after the first 15 minutes of sitting in, I made the assumption that yeah, I just got an email, go to this webinar or this presentation. And I think I made the assumption that there was a pre-existing relationship between Kingmakers and Collective Impact. And so I am more blessed to have just listened to this relative to what I just asked. But I do want to ask, so what is this? You know, I don't want to, sideline the top.
Go for it. Go
Trying to
for it,
feel like,
Rashonda.
where am I at? What are we
Tell
doing?
it, Rashonda. Tell him.
Absolutely. So you apparently you wasn't listening to my interjection pitches, but that's okay.
No. I'm with you. I got the app on my
Oh yeah, your background is so cool. I see the cool background. I love that. I love that. That's great branding. I am impressed, first of all. So we are a network of consultants of color, and we are all united together to provide services for nonprofits led by people of color and or servicing communities of color. So we all across the globe. Everything is virtual now. So we have nonprofit operations, which is Latisha, and we have another young lady who does strictly grant proposals. She does strategic planning, all of that. So everyone is a consultant for their own business. We're just a network, and Collective Impact is pretty much the consulting firm that are bringing in these different people. And I'm the liaison, so I am the middle person between the nonprofit organizations. I listen to what the nonprofits need, and then I will refer one of our consultants in our network to provide those services to help that nonprofit overcome the barriers that they are affected by. Does that make sense?
Yes, that helps ground me tremendously. Thank you again, Queen.
Of course, anytime. And so again, we have marketing consultants, we have C.P.A., strategic planning, operations. We have all of those under our network as well. We service nonprofits.
So Anthony, go to the website and arrange for a free consultation with me. Arrange that through Latisha, and I'll be happy to give you an hour of just basic conversation on where you are in your organization, next steps, and do my best to advise you. So yeah, set that up and I'll be happy to do it.
Absolutely. You can do that through the app. And he said Latisha, you meant Rashonda.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. No, I meant Latisha. Yeah, that's what I meant.
He trying to get another.
Wait, what?
I meant Rashonda. Yeah.
You know, he trying to slide that.
Yeah, I know. So
She already put her calendar in there. I already got that down, but yeah, I was picking up what he was trying to put down. I'm with you, Rashonda. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like I said, my background is blurring it, but what I was trying to show you was I got you all's app already up on the App Store that I'm about to download.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And coming April, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a complete nonprofit course, and it's going to go over everything we talked about. Board governance. We'll go more into grant funding, project management, how to systems on that, and we bring in our professional consultants to teach in their area of expertise. So it's going to be incredible. So you can enroll in that through the app as a premium app subscriber as well. So that's how we're going to make impact. We got all this experience. I have over 12 years of marketing experience in the nonprofit, the corporate, and the military background. Latisha has 17, 20 years. She's just amazing. And Andrew has 25 years. And then it goes on. We have another young lady who has helped with a lot of social movement funding for that. She's done $158 billion. Oh, I like that. I claim that in the name of Jesus, $1 million as well. So we have a really strong network. Everybody is good peoples. I mean, this is just a God-given vision, and they are all collectively, we can change our community. So however we can do that, bringing our skills to the table. So your organization sounds incredible, absolutely incredible. I can't even imagine what the school system is like in Oakland, California. I am a mother of a 15-year-old son. So I definitely am very passionate about organizations that serve young men, to give them options and not to tell them who they are, you know?
Yeah.
So kudos to you and what you're doing with your organization. It's amazing.
And if I may, one quick question.
You're
Lance,
fine. We
very,
can do
very-
this all day.
I appreciate, someone who believes in the village notion. But language is very important. I do want to ask, because I'm loving just seeing my people, Black folk in this event. When y'all say people of color, do you really mean people of color, or is this a group of just for Black folks?
I really mean people of color. We have Hispanic, Middle Eastern, people of color. We mean people of color. Yeah.
Okay. That's helpful. Okay.
And we have every month too, next Sunday, we're going to have a gentleman from Brooklyn, New York. We do what's called Leaders of Color interview series, and we highlight a leader of color making impact in their community. So I definitely may reach out to you to be one of our guests on that, because I really want to hear and learn more about what you're doing for your organization. So we do that once a month, and it's just a nice way to show people who are actually doing it, right? And they give advice and all that stuff. Our app is a community of nonprofit leaders of color. So like-minded people doing God's work, servant leaders, all that fun stuff. So do you have any more questions?
No. I do. You will quickly learn this about me, but in the spirit of just time, I won't ask anymore. I got the critical ones answered already.
Okay, and again, you can schedule that consultation with Andrew. Y'all best buddies here. We see teaming up on us. Hey, Latisha. Hey, girls. But, well, thank you so much for joining us. We pray that we really added some value for you and your organization, and best of luck, applying for funding. And if you have any questions, again, you can access everybody through the app as well. And we look forward to hopefully serving you in the future.
Yeah, I look forward to building with y'all. God bless y'all as well. Be well.
Be well. Thank you. Hey, Latisha, can you stay on for a second?